Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sunday on Focus on Liberia. I'm your host, Jackie Sayegh. I'm sitting in today for Dennis Jar. And today we have a very interesting panel. We are going to be discussing accreditation. We're going to be discussing accreditation, titles, the hierarchy of academia, and all things in between. And today we have an esteemed panel that will be discussing that. On our panel today is Michael Adodo Wannah, Dr. Michael Adodo Wannah. He is Associate Professor of Bilingual Education at Chicago State University. Welcome, Dr. Wannah. And he's also the President of the Liberian Studies Association. And then we have Dr. Samuel Y. Johnson, who is an instructional professor of economics in the Department of Accounting, Economics, and Finance at Delaware State University. Welcome, Dr. Johnson.
It's a pleasure, Jackie. Thank you.
And we have a third guest who will be joining us later, Dr. Saki Golafale, and he's assistant professor in the Department of Chemistry at Kennesaw State University. So we would like for you to join us today as we explore PhDs, doctors, and other accreditation and titles in Liberia. So first, I would like to welcome, I would like to welcome all of you and to say that this is going to be a very interesting discussion. First of all, I would like to start by asking both of you to explain what it is when we say accreditation. What does that mean in academia? And we'll start with Dr. Johnson and then go to Dr. Wannah.
I thought you were going to start with the guy who's an educationist by training. But accreditation is just a process of licensing for, it's not only about higher education, you find it even among professional organizations. And the intent, the purpose for that is that it provides a way to regulate and monitor quality. And across the world, in various countries, not in the United States, but in Ghana, Nigeria, you have various regulatory bodies that set up the minimum guidance for licensing and accrediting institutions of higher education. In Liberia, we have the National Commission on Higher Education. Since the late 1980s, if my memory is serving me right, that body was established solely for the purpose of accreditation.
I'm here, just fixing my camera. Are you done, Samuel? Dr. Johnson?
Yeah, I think I want to pause there for now and allow Michael to chime in.
Okay, Dr. Wannah.
Dr. Johnson just said was correct. Accreditation bodies are set up to make sure that institutions, especially of higher education or institutions of learning, have standards all across the board. Standards that institutions conform with what are required of them. So like Dr. Johnson said, in Liberia, we have the Higher Commission of Higher Education, the National Commission of Higher Education that was established in 1989. And that commission oversees all higher educational purposes in the Republic of Liberia. So for example, in the United States, we have, like Dr. Johnson said again, we have various accrediting bodies. For the education that I belong to, we have the Higher Learning Commission. For my specific areas, we have accreditation for English language, for bilingual education. So there are a lot of various education and licensing board accreditation bodies that make sure that institutions conform to the standards set standards that are required all through for successful running of those institutions.
So then my next question is, why is it important? Why is it important that a nation or an academic institution should have an accreditation?
Well, let me go before Dr. Johnson. It is really important. One, to set standards across the board. Two, to make sure that institutions are conforming to regulations. So accreditation boards are like regulatory boards that are set to make sure that these institutions are adhering to what are required of them.
Okay. And Dr. Johnson, do you want to jump in? Dr. Johnson,
To
can you hear me?
ensure, like Michael said, just to add up, is to ensure standard, whether in higher education or professional bodies. In the United States, and I think the same happens in Liberia, an institution of higher education like a university or a community college obtains a license, obtains a form of accreditation from a regional accrediting body. You have the Midwest, you have the Southern Association, various regional bodies accredit universities based on their own locales. But the programs that are offered by these universities themselves also seek accreditation and license from professional bodies that are responsible to maintain standard. In the case of Liberia, you have the nursing board, the nursing and midwifery board. They are primarily responsible to set standard and enforce the minimum baseline standard for nurses. They are the ones who gave nurses accreditation test. But in order to ensure that the nurses coming to sit that test are fully prepared, they also go into these higher education institutions to license the program that these institutions set up. So we have the same thing here in the United States. Some programs like the business schools, for example, they obtain licensing from professional business institutions. The same thing with programs in public policy. Those professional programs obtain specific license from those professional bodies that are responsible to regulate standard outside of the academy. And after a period of time, they go back to do what we call the licensing reaffirmation, or they go back to reaffirm their accreditation, which involves what is referred to as a self study, where the university takes stock or the program takes stock of itself, evaluate its own program, look at its faculty, look at the output, the quality of students that are produced, and they submit it for review, vetting. It is based on the review by the professional body that they are able to get their licenses renewed for another period of time.
And
Okay, so,
just
so
to follow
yes,
up,
Dr. Wannah, go ahead.
just to follow up with what Dr. Johnson just said, for example, in 2023, we at Chicago State University are preparing for the Higher Learning Commission, our accreditation board. So we are working on our various assessment, our various programs, making sure that we are dotting all the I's and T's. Something that the university has been doing from the time it was established in order to meet these standards. So when the Higher Learning Commission comes again to Chicago State to check us to make sure that we have these things in line. So instead of in the Higher Learning Commission, Dr. Johnson was so right that by saying we have regional accrediting board, but it is a national accrediting board across the United States of the America that accredits all like the NCHE in Liberia, that accredits all the universities here in the United States.
Okay, if we come to Africa now, right? We've seen a rash of universities, for-profit universities being built. A lot of them are cropping up. I mean, in Liberia alone, I think maybe over 10 or 15 that have said that they can give degrees, higher degrees, right? I mean, before it used to be Cottington and the University of Liberia, and then Tubman University, and now we're seeing a rash of universities coming up. Who's responsible? Which agency is responsible for accrediting those institutions?
It was the institution that was set by the government of Liberia in 1989, and it still has its power today. The National Commission of Higher Education is the accrediting board of all higher institutions of Liberia. I don't know whether they have changed, but from a paper I just read from a Daily Observer stuff in 2020, I think in January, the National Commission is still doing its work, even though the National Commission is saying that they have limited resources, but they are still doing the work. So that's the body in Liberia that accredits Liberia's higher education. So that body is to look into those new colleges and universities that are, for a lack of a better word, popping up, and see whether they meet the standards and goals that are set by the NCHE to perform or to operate in Liberia.
Okay, and we will delve more into that. We want to welcome Dr. Saki Golafale, Assistant Professor of Chemistry at Kennesaw State University. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you, thank you. My apologies for coming late in, but I'm following the conversation, and I hope that I will join in as I get to understand the whole nature of the discussion. I know the topic, but I'll respond to questions when you ask. But let me uh, observe the conversation, and I will join in.
Okay. Okay, so we're talking about the rash of universities that have popped up in Liberia now, and we're wondering which agency is tasked with accrediting them. And Dr. Wannah was explaining that to us. And we would like to know more about that agency, is if it's still in existence, what really is it tasked to do? And maybe Dr. Wannah or Dr. Johnson can add more on that.
Yeah, like Dr. Warner said, the National Commission for Higher Education has been the agency set up by government. It was through an act of the legislature responsible to license and accredit institutions of higher education. In the last 5, 10 years, somewhere around during the tenure of Madam Salih, there was a call for what they call the National Accreditation Center, and it was exclusive to be established to deal exclusively with the accreditation of institutions because of what they consider to be the limited capacity of the National Commission of Higher Education to really enforce its accreditation standard. I know there was recently a program in Monrovia at the Education Ministry where they tried to get this started. I don't know how far it's gone, so I could be wrong. Maybe they've gone far away with that process. The challenge we have with the challenge we find with higher education accreditation is that it is a voluntary process. In the United States, people are not compelled. But what it does is that it elevates the persons, elevates the status of the university or the institution within the community of higher education to obtain a particular kind of accreditation. So if you look like, I mean, no intent to those who study theology or other disciplines, but if you look at some theological institutions, they do not care to seek accreditation within the United States. They just get established through the legal things that are required for them as an organization, what is required. They do not seek higher education institution. You may also find that in Liberia, where institutions feel that, hey, I don't need to get the accreditation. I'm doing what I think is right in keeping with the word of God. So that's a challenge. And so it's not only Liberia, but even places like Ghana, every now and then in Ghana, for example, the institution responsible for higher education always come up with a list of institutions that are deemed accredited and licensed to offer various degree programs with a warning to people in the marketplace: do not deal with any other institution that is not on the list. And Ghana has several institutions that have come under the radar for that particular instance. I know my later program mate from Ohio University, peace be to his ashes, Dr. Shikata, wrote a piece with another author, which raised, I don't want to call it raise the specter, but it was raise the conversation about the importance of higher education institutions gaining accreditation in Africa for that matter. He called names of people whom he felt went to schools that were not accredited by institutions in countries where they say they were school. And so you find that problem is not only prevalent in Liberia today. I know recently the NCHE came up also with its own list of institutions that are licensed to offer specific degrees in Liberia, warning people, warning other institutions which had not met those standards to pursue the path to operate legally.
Okay, and um, so what I would like to do is we have the Unirank University ranking for Liberia, right? And Anthony, if you could please put the third slide, just the third slide for us to see. The rankings that they have is that Cottington University is number, no, not that one. I think the next one. No, the next one. Sorry. Cottington University is ranked number 1. The University of Liberia is ranked number 2. African Methodist Episcopal University is ranked number 3, and United Methodist University is ranked number 4. So looking at these rankings and accreditation, what can we say about universities that are not on this list, that are operating in the country? Because if we look at the NCHE, right, it says that its goal, its duty is to formulate broad policy guidelines for the establishment of institutions of higher education in Liberia and serve as the regulatory body for all institutions offering degrees and serve as a principal liaison between institutions of learning offering degrees in the country. Now, my question to all of you on this panel is, given what we know now and the ranking that we see in front of us, what justification does the National Commission on Higher Education, what justification would they give to give accreditation to other institutions that are not on this list? And is it important that those institutions in Liberia that are coming up, that they be ranked on this list, or it doesn't matter? And we'll start with Dr. Golafale.
Thank you very much. Forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Miss Sengbe.
Sayegh.
Sayegh, all right. And thank you very much. And thanks to my two colleagues, Doctors Wannah and Johnson. This is a conversation that we have to take very important. Such conversations don't really occur on our news media a lot. And I want to thank Focus on Liberia for highlighting these kind of conversations among Liberian professionals. And just to go back a little bit before I address your question, I think that the national, as Dr. Johnson rightly said, the National Commission on Higher Education is really challenged, and with people with experts in higher education management and accreditation. I think that's where we need to focus our conversation more. And one thing I want to make clear is that I've always stated that uh, uh, education and politics cannot go side by side. If you politicize education, you deny the country its fundamental rights, the people, to have quality education. And that is what we've witnessed year in, year out, from one leadership to another. There is no defined system of higher education management that everyone has to follow. And the Higher Education Commission has its act that was established in 1989. And up to now, we have a proliferation of colleges and universities in Liberia that we're still questioning when we leave the borders of Liberia as to whether If I obtain a degree from this university, it's not on the ranking for Unirank. Is it a degree worth carrying on? And we've seen a lot of students. I work with a lot of students who come from Liberia with degrees from different universities. They have to go back to school and get a U.S. degree and before going forward. And this is something that we are not discussing. And it's very troubling. Looking at the list there, the question we must ask is the Commission on Higher Education uh, operating in line with international best practices? Those are things. What rankings do we have locally in Liberia? Does the ranking matter, or the Commission on Higher Education, does it regard these international bodies on the issue of ranking? Because if you get your degree or transcript and all, it goes through the international verification process and all that before you are accepted either to work or to get in other higher education program. My apologies for my background. It's kind of, I'm in my little office room, but there's still feedback from outside from my kids. But the issue is, we have to call these people to the table to converse. The National Commission should be represented on this show to answer some burning questions. There are questions about accreditation in Liberia, but are the accreditation based on the standards set by the National Commission on Higher Education? I doubt it. Let me give you an instance. A lot of time you go and see universities that are accredited. I won't call names here, but here is what happened in Liberia that I know. And when a college or university seeks accreditation, the requirements, one of the key requirements is the quality of the faculty. A lot of the times they need faculty with terminal degrees. So there are people in Liberia who have terminal degrees. My people, I beg you, my battery is running out. There are people in Liberia who have terminal degrees, and these people go and stand in for these universities. You will check on some university website, they have names of people, prominent people, but they are not actually part of the structure of the universities. They're only standing in for them to get accreditation. And the same thing goes on with businesses that should be owned, a little bit going off the topic, that should be owned by Liberians, but there are foreigners behind it. The Liberians can just stand in the face for them to get their degrees or documents approved and move on, and so-called Liberian businesses. And according to the liberalization policy, the same thing is happening in higher education. So we have to question the National Commission on Higher Education. How are they going about the process of accrediting institutions? Do they follow the guidelines? Are there really people, when they show that people who are their faculty, are they real faculty or people are faking? These are some of the questions that need to be answered.
Yeah. So
Just to follow
yes,
before I
please
lose
go
this
ahead.
train of thought. And what Dr. Golafale just said reminded me of a World Bank report taking stock of higher education and higher education accreditation in Liberia. And one thing that came up quite clearly was the issue of quality assurance. The report said the licensing procedure is minimal. Now it's speaking now about the National Commission on Higher Education. Let me go one step backward. Part of that report says while policy documents have been produced, few of their recommendations have been implemented, including those in the National Education Strategic Plan. There is little quality assurance of higher education. In those institutions that do not receive a license from the Commission, the key agency in the country focused on tertiary education are unable to operate only in theory. So what that means is that it is said it is in the law, but then these institutions are not living by the law. And so that explains why you see this what I call mushrooming of institutions of higher education across Liberia. Almost every day you hear the new institution being open, a new institution offering new degrees. It's the failure of quality assurance. And the report goes one step further and says the licensing procedure is minimal. Now, that is the basic requirement for accreditation, and is not accompanied by any subsequent accreditation or quality assurance procedures. So when you come back to a place like the United States, I hate to use the United States as a point of comparison for Liberia because we are not on the same plane, but it doesn't matter. We can use it as a point of reference. Here, institutions of higher education, like I said, in specific programs that obtain professional accreditation from professional bodies, they have a review process sometimes every 5 years, every 10 years. In the case of Liberia, from this report, that seems not to be the case. And that affects quality assurance because nobody is coming after you once you have the license to cross check issues like Dr. Golafale has raised, where people go in front as gatekeepers for these institutions. And there is a purpose for that. It is to ensure that the qualified people that are required for these programs are in the right place. So who goes back to the university after every year and asks faculty members to review their CVs and their licensing? In the United States, when the program is coming up for review, every faculty member, not only for review, at the end of each academic year, we are required to submit an updated copy of our CVs and sometimes our newer publications. So people are in the back that are responsible for accreditation that go in there and cross-check what we have to ensure that we are what we say we are. Sometimes transcripts are even required. So in a case like Liberia, and I'm giving this report, what this report said, and what Dr. Golafale has said, this seems not to be the case. And so that explains what could be the drop in quality. Coming back to an earlier point concerning the UniRank report, it is a good thing every university look forward to be, the least they want is to be included in that kind of a report. What that says is that others are watching you. But we should also be concerned about the methodology. Is it comparable to like the higher education, the world, the group that does higher education ranking in the United States, for example? Is it comparable to what obtained in places like Ghana? Because giving the particular institution that is doing the ranking requires certain expectations. Some programs require what is your student retention rate, what is the graduation rate, where do your students go. Others require faculty performance, for example. What nature of faculty do you have? Are they publishing? Is their publications being cited by other scholars in their field? And when you go back and look at these methodologies, then it explains quite clearly how meaningful these rankings are. But whether these rankings reflect, I know I was in Liberia somewhere in 2012, similar ranking came up with Cottington being number one. Obviously, my colleagues who graduated from the University of Liberia took offense. How can you say the number one university within the country is not ranked number one? And I said, guys, it's not like that. It's not because of how old you are. But how do we determine this? Is by looking at the methodology. So even with this, I would think that the higher education will begin to draw lessons from these. Look at what global educational ranking institutions look at to rank these institutions, and you have to use that to serve as a standard setting guidepost to ensure quality, because that's the reason they are established, to ensure quality. And if they are not doing that job, like Dr. Golafale said, they should be held to account, whether on platforms like these or someplace else.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. And we'll move on now to the quality of the faculty because it is.
Jackie, may I just
Yes.
chime in a little bit because
Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Golafale raised some very salient points, and when he talks about looking at students' documents from Liberia when they apply for universities here, and they have to go through some agency that also monitor these accrediting bodies to make sure that those documents they are bringing are valid.
He does that, yeah.
Yeah, what happening here is this because those agencies that are really reviewing those documents review the faculty members also that are at those institutions, just as Dr. Golafale just said, and Dr. Johnson also highlighted. It's so important because we are I've been involved in several universities since I came in this country. I don't want to say how many universities because I don't want to show up my age. But I've been in how many years I've been there, And all the time I've been involved in preparing for accreditation when a higher learning commission comes. And just as Dr. Johnson said, the faculty members are, they have to make sure that you are qualified in the area for which you are teaching. You have all the qualifications that are there for you to teach in our program. In Liberia, I don't know whether that is the case. The list that you just put up about the ranking of the universities, I don't know what yardstick they use to list those university and to rank those university. And like you said, why are other universities not there in those rankings? And if the other universities fill the yardstick, why are they not telling us that this is the reason for which those universities are not there? So what makes Cottington number one and I don't know, but like we are all saying, is that we just want the better or the best for Liberia. If you're doing these rankings, you have to tell us how you meted the ranks on these university, and then tell us the yardstick you use, so everything can be transparent. I'm kind of like, I'm not coming to call names here, but I'm involved with setting several universities in Liberia. And I asked them, one university brought some prospectus for me to look at here. I was looking at a prospectus and I'm like, fine, good, we get a prospectus. So how do you go about the programs, the process, the faculty, and all those things? And they said, oh no, we just pay the money to the Higher Learning Commission and then we'll be okay. Oh, you just pay the money? Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay. Because the universities I am connected to, we just don't pay the money. We do the work. We work. We work for us. We work to maintain those standards.
Yeah, Dr. Golafale, would you like to say something? Would you like to add something? We can hear.
Yeah, I want to say something. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I was. Yeah, you see, Dr. Johnson made a very important point, issue of quality assurance, and that is what make the universities and colleges here the top ones in the U.S. survive to continue going, because the issue of quality assurance, they are accreditation bodies make sure everyone is updated yearly. The issue of your credentials, your professional development. You have to make report on how well you are developing in terms of your profession. You're not just stuck one place and you can't move professionally. But the thing here is that I usually tell people quality brings quality. Quality brings quality. If you don't have quality, you won't get quality. All right. So that's the case in Liberia. We are not putting in our best, so we are getting the worst. The issue of quality assurance. I'm a member of the American Society for Quality, and specifically, I focus on the higher education quality area. There's a lot of professional development, programs and through the membership that I go through. Some of these things, programs and professional development, are the things that professionals in Liberia, especially the Commission on Higher Education, they're supposed to subscribe to, have some of their staff trained, know the issue of quality, what are the best practices when it comes to quality assurance in higher education. You don't have to go in. You can get trained professionally. People have to invest into it, and it has to be prioritized. So the issue about what university someone graduated from in terms of checking transcript with the international bodies that check transcripts, we won't be having this kind of conversation about what are your university is accepted in, going for students can be accepted for higher education with their transcript if our system take into consideration the issue of quality, right? And that will not be achieved if we don't restructure the system. The system has to be restructured, aggressive restructuring, make sure that the qualified people are put in place and they do the right thing. If they don't do the right thing, we will continue to discuss these things over and over and over and over. Right now, we've been hearing about proliferation of fake degrees around. It's not still confirmed. Has the Commission on Higher Education said anything about it? In the US, whenever you hear on the media that people have fake degrees, especially people in public service or not, the FBI and all these people, they don't take this news and just let it go for nothing. When the Washington Post come up with stories about a private person, it has any security implication, the FBI does not sit and just watch the public where someone will be scrutinizing the code of
Dr.
public
Golafale, I
opinion.
think something's wrong
Up
with
to now, we
your.
haven't heard the Commission on Higher Education speaking. Are you getting me?
Yes,
Hello?
but you
Are you
keep
hearing me
going
now?
in and out. You keep going in and out. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I'm
Yes.
saying
Yes.
that
We can hear you.
up to now, okay, let me check my internet. I will come back. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
So
why Dr. Golafale is coming back? Why he just saying is really important for quality, and Dr. Johnson hit that on the nail too. Um, for quality assurance, faculty has to be prepared. That is, you have to go to all the conferences, the professional development, workshop training. Even though we have terminal degrees on this panel, all of us, but our university, it is expected of us to go through all our professional development. Even it is expected of us to, before we gain tenures, we have to have a certain amount of professional development. And even if the universities pay for them in most cases, and they send you to those conferences, to professional development, and they expect you to come, what you learn, to share what you learn with the other members of the faculty. So just as the other two panelists have just highlighted, professional development, and when it comes to quality assurance, is a key in the accreditation procedure. Anyway, in any institutions. So I would like Dr. Golafale to pick up again. It's just that I was just trying to continue, with some thoughts as he went off.
You are muted, Dr. Golafale. You are muted.
As I was saying, the issue of quality counts a whole lot in higher education because you want to produce doctors, you want to produce engineers, you want to produce lawyers. Those people will be the key driver of the country's development. And if they are not produced on the basis of quality, we stand to risk the lives. We stand to risk if you have doctors that are not trained in qualified institutions. You stand to have a flood of fake doctors. Our health system is going to be what? Jeopardized. We see currently that our health system is challenged. One of the roots is the education system. Yeah. Think about how nurses and doctors, you hear a lot of news about how patients are treated, how people die without any account. There's no issue of ethics. Nobody takes responsibility. All these things are deeply rooted in our education system. It comes from the high school, it goes to the university level. People compromise a lot of things because the accrediting bodies, the bodies that are responsible to make sure people live within standard, they aren't functional. They are not doing their core duties. So you have a proliferation of different professionals, people who cannot do the job, but they are given the responsibility to do these jobs, especially in our area of education, healthcare. The healthcare system is completely challenged. How many nursing schools are in Liberia that are producing qualified nurses? Do these nurses go through professional development training? Do they understand how to work with patients? There's a lot of there's been a lot of news from Liberia about how people die in hospitals, how patients treat people. So we have to make these things quality first. People have to be trained, not because you get a degree or certificate, you can just run and serve. You have to understand that human service requires training. And we cannot train people with the level of poor quality of our education system. So quality matters a whole lot.
Thank you so much. Thanks to the three of you for explaining. So we want to transition into these again, the quality of the teachers, and the fake degrees. And I would like to say that Liberia is not the only one that has these fake degrees. I don't know if you know that in South Africa they have amended the National Qualifications Framework Amendment Act, right? And now if you lie on your CV or on your job application claiming that you have a qualification you haven't actually earned, it can get you locked up for 5 years. It says any person, right? It tells you. So, and they have a list because South Africa had a rash of people. I don't know if you remember that the South African Broadcasting Corporation chief operating officer, he lied about having a metric qualification. Then the chief engineer at the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, he lied about his qualifications. Then we had the Minister of Arts and Culture. He fabricated all his degrees. The South African board chairperson, she didn't even have a bachelor's degree. The South African ambassador to Japan, right? He said that, oh, he had a doctorate and he didn't have a doctorate. So there's a rash of fake degrees. And South Africa has this amendment that you will go to jail for 5 years. In Liberia, everybody is a professor. Everybody is a doctor. You can go to whatever, you come back. Liberians love to call you doctor. Liberians love to call you professor. So we want to put the first slide up, Anthony, the first slide, to see the hierarchy that we go through to be able to call someone professor, right? So you go to professor, and then a professor, associate professor, assistant professor, and lecturer. And then the next slide, Anthony, you can see the differences between England and the UK, right? You have a professor, and then it goes down, right? You have a graduate, postdoc, assistant professor, associate professor, and full professor. But Liberians don't care. As soon as you say, "Oh, I have a degree," they don't care whether you have a degree or not. Everybody is calling you a professor. So let's move now to this quality thing. We're not going to. There's a proliferation of Liberians who have fake degrees in Liberia, and the harm that is doing to the country is that they're in the wrong place to effect change. They are not doing what they're supposed to be doing because they are not qualified to have the benefits that's associated with being put in the rightful position, right? So we come now to this thing about teaching at the university, because every time, like even if you're applying for a grant, they ask you, let me see your faculty list. They want to see the universities that the student, that the teacher graduated from. What kind of output, as you say, the publications, the books, the papers, the new knowledge that they are bringing. At the University of Liberia, I was looking, I don't see where there's a development workshop. There's a research methodology being taught. The students graduate from the university, and then they teach at the university. I remember when I graduated from the University of Liberia, I could only be a teaching assistant. Even with the 003, English 003, I was a teaching assistant, not a professor, not a doctor. a teaching assistant. But Liberians don't know the hierarchy of, oh, assistant professor, associate professor, full professor, nothing. Everybody's a professor. So my question to all three of you is that now that we see that we have all these fake degrees, fake professors, and now we have the National Commission on Higher Education, right? How do they mesh? What are they teaching our students? Because our students definitely are not learning. Majority of them are not learning. And as you say, when they get the degrees and they come abroad, those transcripts are scrutinized. And of course, some of them have to do remedial English. Some of them they will be rejected. So my question is, this proliferation of fake doctors in Liberia, who's to blame? Is it the people? Is it the Liberian society who loves to call people doctors and professors? Who's to blame for this proliferation? And why is the NCHE not vetting these people who say they will come? And I could give you a list, because I went to LinkedIn, I went to a lot of places, and you would see names and you would say, and it would be like they got a bachelor's degree this year, and 2 years later they got a PhD. And I'm like, oh my God, So I want you guys to talk about these fake doctors. When do you call somebody a doctor? Who is a professor? Let's get into this in Liberia. What's hurting Liberia with this doctor obsession that everybody is a doctor, or a professor? We'll start with Dr. Golafale and then go down the list.
Much. This is a very hot topic nowadays. I guess you are aware of, the Facebook conversation that has been going on about the proliferation of fake doctors.
That's why we brought. That's why we brought the real doctors here to discuss.
Until it has been confirmed by the legal authority about the names that have been popping up, we still keep that story as it's alleged that some individuals have fake doctorate. Let me address the issue of the academic ranking. In my case, I spent 6 years doing my doctorate degree in chemistry program. And while doing my program, at some point in time, I started as a teaching assistant. Right. I started as a teaching assistant and I worked consistently for 3 years, focused more on general chemistry. The reason I focus more on general chemistry, working along with one of the professors, the advice was that you want to be a subject matter expert in this area. That's the first level of chemistry before you move to the next. So you have to focus a lot. So I spent 6 hours a week working with 3 classes, independently, solving problem approaches, different approaches in solving problems, and getting more used to classroom management and all that. I went through that, and I'll be evaluated by the students because I was being paid, right? And all along, every year, my the faculty I'm working with is happy to work with me as the year goes by, right? And then after completing my 3 years, going to my 4 year, I became more confident in teaching. I was recommended for a college, a 4-year college, and I was hired initially as a graduate assistant. Now you see where it's going now. From a teaching assistant, I went to a graduate assistant level at a college, a 4-year college, and I worked for a year. And then I was given the opportunity to serve as a lecturer. Because at that point, now every year I had to provide my CV on professional development that highlights how I am progressing in my profession, and also my transcript to make sure that as a graduate student, I maintain a standard grade point average to qualify me to teach. If I had a below 3.0, it will disqualify me from teaching. So the standard is set here, and then I went through that process for 3 years as a lecturer. From a graduate assistant, I went up to a lecturer. I took lecturer position now. I spent 3 years at the college. And then the next thing I look at now, I had the boldness, I had the courage, I had the confidence. I applied for an assistant professor position. And I met the requirement. I went through the rigorous interview. I submitted. My transcripts were evaluated. And currently I'm an assistant professor at the level. So that the next level is going to take a while. Like associate professor, it's going to take a long while. It had to be based on my scholarly teaching, my level of commitment to teaching and research. If I'm more focused on teaching, they have to see contribution from me. Publications, heading academic programs for students, working with faculty, they have to see my commitment. And if there's a case of promotion, it has to be based on my record, right? It's not something that I have to sit down and decide whether I will become associate professor or not. I know one of my professors spent 20 years before he rose to the rank of associate professor. He spent a lot of time. When you see his credential, you see what he has done. You will say that this man was denied the opportunity long. He should have been even a full professor. But the man will tell you that there are people here who are better than me, who have done even more. They deserve more than me. So we have the issue of academic ranking again. It falls on the issue of quality. You have to meet those standards as prescribed by the accrediting body, whether it is a regional accrediting body or national. You have to abide by the ranking. The standard has to be set. You have to go by it. Nobody falls short of it. You cannot move from a lecturer and go to an associate professor, or you cannot stay professor if you have not contributed immensely in your area. If you are not professionally developed, like you just come and get your degree today, a PhD, you can just run and get assistant professorship without having any teaching or experience, classroom management, all those things. So coming to Liberia, it's a different case. All right. We all understand that as soon as you take the truck to teach, prof title comes on you. If we all respect the military ranking, military, the ranks are based on merit. You can't just get a lieutenant, a second lieutenant by just jumping in the army. The same thing in the academic era. It's a rank. The rank has to be based on merit. So people don't understand that in Liberia, everyone is called professor, and we have a lot of proliferation, a lot of professors around without solid academic or scholarly contribution. It's just not right. We have to review this thing again. The National Commission on Higher Education, they have to get up and work to restore, to bring quality. You have to put in quality. To put out the best of graduates, you don't fool people around that you are a professor. Without you go out of the country and you call yourself a professor. The first thing somebody wants to see what's the scholarly contribution of this guys. You check on my Google, you Google me. When you check on Google, you'll see that researcher. Now I didn't create that. Google automatically grades me as a researcher based on my research. So yeah, Google automatically puts me in a category of a researcher. So I'm involved in the research. Right now, I'm transitioning into more my research to be more of education, higher education research, focusing on chemical education. That's what my research has been focused since I graduated. So we have to be serious about these things. The academic ranking is similar to when you are ranking in the military. It's something that based on merit. You have to work for it. You don't just get it. I'm sure a lot of people in Liberia feel it is local, so it remains local. It's okay. It's not okay. It has to be addressed.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Golafale. Can we have some comments? Maybe we can read some comments and see what people are saying about the topic. If there are comments, if there are no comments, we can continue. Martin Brown says, I know it will be very difficult to accept, but most of those higher institutions of learning in Liberia doesn't have the requisite standards required to give out degrees. And sadly, the Commission on Higher Education doesn't check these universities vigorously before issuing them accreditation. Ironically, bribery is another factor that is seriously affecting our educational system in Liberia. I agree with you, Martin. I agree with you Charles King said, Dr. Golafale, are you with the Ministry of Education? And if so, what have you done about all what you said? What oversight are you providing? You are the government.
Can I address that quickly?
Um, yeah, okay, yes, we can, yeah, you
Yeah,
can
Mr.
address
King,
that.
I'm not with the Ministry of Education,
Okay,
but not in the capacity of ensuring quality assurance of or accrediting universities. I haven't had that experience before. Thank you.
okay, okay, okay. So if those are all the comments, we can continue the conversation. Kafumba Suarez said, once you put a chalk on blackboard, you will be considered as a professor in Liberia. Yes, we agree with you. Doyle Gibson says, maybe we in the diaspora can create a funding program to fund public libraries in the various counties in Liberia. If we don't have any program like that yet, lack of school resources and good facilities is what's affecting most Liberian youth. It should be a collective effort when it comes to developing our educational system. Thanks to those who have been making the effort for the past 17 years, public library is the government's responsibility, but we can intervene as Liberians in the diaspora. I agree with you. Jimmy Eastman said, for me, the big question is, are the institutions of learning properly addressing the needs of Liberia? Is the pursuit of degrees synonymous with the pursuit of knowledge and skills, or is it a mere tag that is sought? What is being done to assess youth skills development in Liberia and synchronize that with the needs of the economy and industry? Youth aged 15 to 34 constitute over a third of the population in Liberia. These youth represent both a demographic dividend and a concern. And I couldn't agree more. And Majanga said most of our degree holders in Liberia are misplaced in terms of teaching. An accountant will be teaching mathematics at a university. Okay, so they're talking about resources, that there are not enough resources to go around to be able to help the people. They're also talking about the fact that there is no meshing of, you know how the economic outlook, right? Is that what it's called, the economic outlook? Where they tell you, okay, in 10 years or in 5 years, these are the skills that America would need, you know, and it kind of like informs people when they're going to college. Oh, America would need accountants. America would need research analysts, things like that. But in Liberia, it seems like Liberia would need politicians. Liberia would need political scientists. Liberia would need public administration. Those are the things that Liberia would need. There is nothing, you know, that ties what Liberia needs. And it's true, as we see now when people are graduating, we are all very happy. We have a young woman who got a PhD in entomology. We have another young woman who got a PhD. So, but those are just singular individuals. You know, we need a collective cohort to say these are the people who's going to carry Liberia forward. And I remember Dr. Gabiruka of the African Development Bank when he said, we always say, oh, you know, Africa needs doctors. Africa needs doctors. Africa needs the spoke on the wheel, right? The doctors, but Africa needs research analysts, they need phlebotomists, they need nurses, they need nursing assistants. Those are the people that will help the doctor. You know, the doctor cannot work in isolation. So let's talk about research. Let's talk about this missing link of the professors, right? Like, where are we going to get research workshops? Because I know that some of the professors at the University of Liberia, when they are coming to the Liberian Studies Association meetings for professional development and to present papers, they have to pay their own way. They have to look for a place to sleep. They have to do whatever is necessary to come. The university does not help them in any way. So what can be done? First of all, to flush these fake degree holders out, is it name and shame them? What will it take for us to say, no, that person doesn't have a PhD, or no, that person doesn't belong in that position? And will the government or will the country listen? Or is it that this obsession with degree will continue and we will keep seeing all these fake degree? And again, when I say fake degrees, I mean, some of them are not fake. You know, some of them, they get it from these online degree mills. You know, they say, oh, I did my degree, so I have my paper, you know, and people say, oh, but the man has a paper. Yeah, but it's not worth what it's written on. So come and help us here. How can we move Liberia forward? And how can we set up a vetting agency that will work if the NCHE doesn't work? Dr.
So let
Wannah,
me,
yes.
yeah, thank you, Ms. Sayegh. Let me just say, this is kind of a shameless plug. A few weeks ago, I presented a paper at the Liberian Studies Association on the importance of giving teachers livable wage. And somebody on the from OSA asked me, because I said, there are a lot of things that are happening with these substandard education, substandard me that are giving in Liberia, and so probably because of the lack of people getting livable wage. When we talk about resources, we talk about paying people. Like I'm the president of the Liberian Studies Association, and this is a scholastic intellectual body that we come to every year to kind of like present our scholarly work. And it's a shame that we have only a few people from Liberia coming all the time, and they are not supported by their universities. And most of those people use the really minute wage that they're getting to pay their way to these conferences, and they come in the name of the universities. So one of the things to limit these fake degree is for those quote unquote faculty members, because I don't want to say professor, but those faculty members to come in and to showcase what they are and who they are. And the accrediting board, the NCH, I suggest that it requires the NCHE requires the faculty members through the universities to get to be professional, to do the professional development, as the other panelists say. It's so important that the faculty members go to professional development. It's like all of us here, we have three of us who are the panelists, we have terminal degrees, we have PhD, but the accrediting boards here and the universities here expect us to always go to our professional development, always to do presentation, always to be engaged in research and other things. So the Liberian, if you actually I don't want to say that because I don't want to accuse the people of not having their credentials. But if you have your credentials, it shouldn't be a problem trying to develop yourself to meet the standards of those credentials. Because at my university, if I don't do a presentation for a year or two, if I don't do some kind of scholastic work or research work, I will be questioned, because the university will also be questioned by the accrediting board. So although, like Dr. Johnston rightly said, we are not trying to compare apples and apples with Liberia when we're doing, but it's very important that we look at a system that has worked, or a system that worked. And let me go back to these ranking of, like Dr. Golafale was saying. For me, I'm an associate professor now, and very soon I'll be a full professor. It took years to reach where I am. I spent years serving as assistant professor, and it was not the easiest. It was most of the time as assistant professor, I was not put on university committees, but I had to work my way through, crawl through, and then I was given associate professor. And like Dr. Golafale just said, it's not a matter of 2-3 years or 4-5 years. I think I've been an associate professor now for 6, 7 years, and again, but you have to patiently wait because there are your colleagues, rightfully said, that are doing things that are somehow better than what you are doing. It's not saying that you are not better in your work, but you have to wait for your time. And so my students will not just look at me and call me professor because I'm not a full professor yet. I'm looking for the day they call me Dr. Wannah because I'm an associate professor. I would take professor, but I would take professor with the lower P and not the capital P because I have to work towards my being the capital P. And as I'm reaching there, I also, if I reach there, everybody will know because I will come back on focus on Liberia and let you know that I'm a full professor and have a party for all my panelists that are here. So it's not an easy thing, you know. It's a ranking that we have to go through, a ranking that we have to patiently wait for. And it's no shame to be an assistant professor. It's no shame to be an associate professor. But there is a way to you have to work your way out there. So hearing from Liberia when I talk to some of my friends, oh, this person is a professor. I'm like, oh, okay, good. How long has that person been teaching to be a professor? What has been that person contribution to the academic or to his professional career? You know, what has been that person contribution? And that contribution comes in many forms. It can be scholastic, it can be it can be research, it can be teaching, and it can be community work because they put everything into play for you to get it. You have to do a community, you got to do community service, you have to be a researcher, and you have to contribute through teaching. Like I'm a teacher by training. So for us, I just left from Concordia University. That was 80% teaching, and I came to Chicago State, the Department of Education. I have more teaching, but my community work and my research also will also count in going out there to be a full professor. So it's a lot of work we have to do. And I agree with Dr. Golafale. Is not a small thing. It's just like the military work towards the rank. We work towards our rank too.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe we can have some more comments. I think there are comments that they would like for you all to answer. Oh, Prof. Cindy is here. He said, I fully agree that quality inputs produce quality outcomes. Education for all levels, including technical, professional, are underserved, hence the quality produced. Thank you, Dr. Cindy. Merit-based titles, Save the State says merit-based titles. Okay, so we don't have any more comments. Okay, so yes. Anastasia said very interesting. Yeah. Well, let's read it. It's sad that even those who leave from the diaspora declare themselves professors because they teach at an institution of higher learning. It's time to undo the wrong. Where do we begin? Okay, Dr. Golafale, you can.
If Dr. Johnson has something to say because he hasn't said.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
not,
I was waiting
I can add.
for you guys to. I wanted to go back on this, and I think that is where the discussion is going now. This issue of ranking, how ranking are determined. Michael closed on that in his last comment when he said, you are ranked based on your performance in three areas broadly in the academy. One, teaching, two, public service, three, research. But the question is, how do we measure teaching in the academy? Is it because of the number of hours you spend in the classroom with chalk dust on your fingers? Or is it research? Is it because you make a post to Facebook every now and then? No. And this was a standard, I think, that was set at the universities before the war at the University of Liberia and Cotton. Teaching is measured based on students' evaluation. Because in that context, your students now become your supervisor. They are able to determine and evaluate and measure the quality of education you are giving to them. So, what is your ranking? How do students rate you as a teacher? And in the United States here, if you look at the student evaluation, your teaching evaluation that is done by students, they have several areas the students look at and rank you. And you're not only just ranked based on teaching, but you're also ranked against other faculty in the department. Your research work is also looked at. And there is an importance here. We keep talking about quality assurance. Someone asked, where does it begin from? Quality assurance is also a process that begins internally. It's an internal audit process. If academic institutions do not pay attention to quality, it means then they are not able to acquire or maintain faculties that are working at the cutting edge of their fields. That is what research does for us academics. We do not go back to the classroom formally to take lectures, but we develop an intense engagement with our fields, giving your specialty. You must know what is existing. What are the front burning issues that other peers in your fields are talking about? How do you know? You only know that by the level of research you do about a particular question. And so as you engage with the research, as you produce, you also now not only you are not only taking it, but you also extend the field of inquiry. And that is what makes you an expert. It is based upon that you are called a professor. Because in Latin, professor means someone who professes. That person must be an expert who has exceptional top level skills in his field. All right. Public service. I mean, there are some of us who are microphone shy or camera shy. But are you somebody who's being considered a thought leader in your field? How do we know? How many public institutions seek after you? How many invited talks do you give, for example? How many institutions say, I need Dr. Golafale to come and speak to my class today? Or we have a serious policy question on chemistry. Can we call Dr. Golafale to help us understand it? For instance, those are the forms of that's the way we measure public service. And I say this, I know I always tell people, I remember 1989, 1990 when we had the issue of toxic waste chicken in Monrovia, in Liberia for that matter. It took a faculty at the University of Liberia to break the jinx surrounding that concern. I still remember I was aboard when the ERTV camera crew went to the chemistry department in Science College. And the guy did this beautiful analysis of the minimal kind of toxic that should be in a meat that is allowed in a human body that will be unharmful to the human body. That is public service. And so, in as much as we think about quality, the universities themselves should begin, they should help to enforce those standards. And how do you do it? Goes back to what we said earlier. Every night they require your faculty to submit an update of the progress they are making. Some faculty may not be able to go to conferences, but it's not every year I go to conferences. But in a year I don't go to conferences, what am I doing? How many papers am I submitting to peer-reviewed journals? So now you are being evaluated by your peers because if your journal article gets accepted, it means the first thing the editor feels now, hey, that this guy is making a serious contribution to this field. And then if the editor feels that way, the next thing is he sends it out to your peers who review this journal blindly. They're not going to look at your name because your name is taken off. And they will look at it and say, okay, yeah, we in agreement with this. This is something worth public attention. And so it gets published. So that keeps you at the front burner. But if the universities do not ask faculty to make these representations at the end of every academic year, you're not asking people to submit their updated CV. So it means people have the tendency to relax and say, well, it's all well, y'all. So they wouldn't.
I think also that we're missing a point here, in that we're talking about the faculty going out and doing research and publishing their works. I'm reminded of my daughter who, when she was in high school, they had a high school newspaper, right? And she was, I think she was the editor, and she would always vet these papers. It can be something as simple as the professors in economics department, right? Writing a paper together, or professor writing a paper and the people in the economics department evaluating and discussing the paper. And from there, little by little, the economics department, the history department, the English department, little from there, you get a journal, a Liberian university journal, that they can start writing. Because I tell you, from looking at the old letters, they used to have really rich output. from the University of Liberia, you know. So I don't know if it's because the professors are teaching at so many universities, so they are overworked, or they're not paid enough. But I feel like if they start small and they start this, even discussion groups, you know, somebody goes online and say, oh, you know what? They're talking about the impact of COVID, right, on the
Mhm.
economy. And then you start talking about it. And then you say, you know what, let's do a paper. You know, those are rich original resources that journals are looking for. Because always people look at the big picture. Oh, I can send my paper to Harvard Journal. No, you don't have to send it to Harvard Journal. You know, you can start small. And I think that uh, um, like the previous comment about building libraries and things, that's well and good. But I feel that sometimes when you go to when you, like any one of us, we go back to Liberia and we try to critique or to say we could help, people feel like you want to take their job. You want to take their job. You know, they are very defensive about that. Even when you don't want to take their job, you know, instead of saying, how can you help us to do something so that we can have output? I feel that there's a dearth, a scarcity of resources in Liberia. But Liberia has one thing that is very rich in, and that's raw data. Raw data, you know, and that raw data can be used. You know, we don't have to have young interns coming to Liberia, interviewing you, taking your raw data away. You know, I mean, when we send our researchers, we always say to them, you have to be paired with a student from that university, and you will work on a problem within the country, but in a comparative context. And then you will leave that paper, but that paper will carry the book of your names as authors. You know, you can start from there. You know, so I think that it behooves us, you know, with all of the resources to help them in Liberia, but also to weed out what they call it, the shade from the shaft, or whatever they call the fake professors who are there because of political graciousness, or they're there because they know somebody, you know, or we have all these ghosts on the payroll. We need, before we can begin to say, oh, we need to start doing this, we need to have scorched earth, you know, get rid of the bad apples and then start again. So I wanted us to take a few more comments, and then I'll let you guys answer, and then I will step back if we have comments that uh, all of our doctors on this show tonight. What have you been contributing towards Liberia? Because our past doctors only brought untold suffering upon us. Oh, that's not fair. Let's see the next question, the next comment, please. What about publication? Oh, Inime Jones, hi. This is paramount and just as important. Each department have a 10-year committee that evaluates the professor's work. Yes, yes. So I will let you guys. The administration at LU is at fault also. So these are three comments.
Let-
I will let you guys answer, respond.
I would like to go first, and something that has been, on my mind. I don't want to forget, because a lot of times people ask you. You all are on this show talking about the problems more than proposing what can be done. And unfortunately, when we propose to the authorities in charge, they don't see it as a way of our contribution. They see it as a way of judging their work output and their professionalism. Here is my proposal for the issue of tracking credentials and people who have different credentials. There's something about tracking in Liberia, but it's done at the secondary uh, school level. With the system that WIAC has in place. And you all know that the American Embassy has updated data on high school graduates. Because of the diversity visa program, people's documents are scrutinized. If you didn't get WIAC certificate you fake it. It's easily to identify through the WIAC system, right? All of the documents have reference numbers. You go and buy the card, you can put it in. If your name is John Brown and that WIAC certificate is yours, it's going to come out as you, nobody else. It's very difficult now to fake a WIAC certificate. Correct me if I'm wrong, based on the system set. Now we can mimic that, bring it to higher education. The National Commission on Higher Education can work along with WIAC. It's not about you going below, you going down, but you want to learn. You have to be humble, learn from what WIAC is doing, bring it to a higher education level, or even if we can synchronize the whole thing with high degrees in higher education, we could give WIAC a little facelift to taking responsibilities about degree verification until we can get there. Because WIAC now is seen to be the expert in that when it comes to the verifying high school degrees, or I mean high school, or not the degrees, but high school or WIAC certificate. I'm hoping that the issue of high school degrees will also come into play, because what I have noticed, I know that for a fact, some colleges and universities in Liberia, they are going to admit students on condition, what we call conditional admission. Or the student's going to say, I don't have my WIAC certificate yet, and they're only going to accept the high school. If you don't know, students, there are a lot of students who go through universities up to 4 years before graduating, they don't have their WIAC certificate submitted. Because 9 out of 10, some of those students did not pass the WIAC. And their refusal to go back, to go and do the research, they don't get the WIAC certificates. And because the colleges or universities want the money, they do not enforce the policies. I know that. I know people who have gone through that process. They reached to a point they had to compromise the standard, and bribery took the how you call it, won the way, and that is bad. So my recommendation here is, in order to fix the system, we have to see who is already practicing it. WIAC is the best area to start from. In order for our higher education system, we should be able to we should be able to scrutinize documents and people's credentials. We can mimic the whole process from WIAC. Another thing I wanted to say was that the issue of research. I've been working on a proposal recently, and some of the things I have to talk about, they are more into economics, they're into social development and other things. I have to build a story, and I have to give references to where I got mine. You check around, you don't see any scholarly paper on Liberia when it comes to the budget on education. Has there been any economist in Liberia giving scholarly review on the trends in budgetary allocation for education for different universities? There's no documented reference. So hear me, a novice in budget analysis, I have to go through the raw budget, download it from Ministry of Finance. I'm going through it because we have a lot of lazy scholars in Liberia who don't want to, get involved. I'm sorry when I say lazy. I mean it. People are just lazy in doing these things. They don't want to devote their time to feeding the public with information, easily read information. If someone takes a whole budget document, do our analysis or review of different sectors over the last 15 years, how much has been contributed to education? What is the output? The money we're pumping into education, are we seeing the benefit? No scholarly work. Nothing of that kind. So hear me now, I have to, as a chemist, I have to go review the budget to see what was allocated for education in the last year. How is education being prioritized? So I can make a case for a particular grant or something that benefits Liberia. But it's difficult because we don't have papers coming up, research materials to support our work. You see it? So, and another thing is, if the university had or plan for the next 2, 3, or 4, 5 years? What are their plans in terms of teaching? What are their plans in terms of research? What is the whole roadmap in getting to being a highly regarded teaching institution or research and teaching? They have to have a strategic plan, and it has to merge with their vision and mission, and how they can feed the Liberian population with quality, not just quantity. Because somebody is asking, where do we go now? Is Liberia? If you ask me, yes, the education system has failed Liberians year in, year out, because nobody is thinking out of the box. We're in a 21st century. People are still thinking about the 19th century. We need to advance ourselves. We need to be serious. And let me address the last thing before my colleagues come in. You see, one of the ways somebody asked a question about or something about, if I'm not mistaken, about how students, people can graduate, get employment, and different things, and how do we connect technically business and education. There's a big gap between education and industry in Liberia. You find out a graduate from chemistry who did a degree in chemistry cannot be easily absorbed working in Simeco, working in beer factory, working with ArcelorMittal, because they do not have the training. So what our education is just giving to those people is just a degree, a paper. They're not training them to be being able to be absorbed, to be employed. So what we can do, what I think we can do, and I'm prepared to get involved with it. In addition to the academic teaching, we have to bring in research. There are a lot of things we can do in Liberia. In my field of studies, there are a lot of things we can do. Typical example. The issue, you all know the history of King Juice in Liberia. King Juice is one of the most popular drinks in Liberia, right? But it has no value. There has been no value addition to King Juice. Read about what comes from the sugar cane alone. The number of finished products you can get from a sugar cane. The King Juice is just one of the products. We can use sugar cane, the shaft, and all those things to create biofuels. We can use cane juice or refined cane juice and make different alcoholic beverages with different flavors. But all that can happen if we have devoted people teaching and involved with research, working with students, and getting them to be professionals after they graduate. You can graduate a student and go and work with Nikon Distillery, to be producing different spirits, different products. You can graduate a student who understands what we call formulation, because a lot of things that occur at beer factory, Coca-Cola, the Clorox factory, they do formulation. You have to understand formulation science, how to mix things to be at their standard, with the standard ingredients and all that. So we have to be very aggressive in not only teaching, but developing our students so that when they graduate. And another thing is we have to link with these institutions, with these industries. That's where you have education and industry link. If you have policies on employment, that our employment, the employment of the industries in Liberia that are involved in the sciences, they have to employ our graduates, and they have to be engaged into programs that would nurture these students. When they graduate, they can be easily absorbed to do internship and then onward employed. But you find out a lot of the industries, they hire foreigners, Ghanaians, Nigerians. They are all in these industries in Liberia. A lot of professional Liberians have not reached that level because we have a complete disconnect between academic institution and industry. I rest.
Yeah. If I may address the question, someone made a comment of what are we doing to contribute to Liberia, and I think while I'm respectfully addressing that comment, I don't think that's fair to us because some of us on a panel here Even though we are not in Liberia, we are contributing every time to Liberian scholarship. And I know that three of us on this panel, we are really involved in a Liberian Studies Association, the oldest African scholastic academic association. And I'm sorry, I'm giving a shameless plug in that because I'm the president of that noble organization. And my friend on a panel with me, Dr. Samuel Johnson, has served as the the head of abstracts and papers that come in there. And Miss Jackie Sayegh, while serving presently as the secretary, has served the organization very, very long time. And what we do there is to present papers on Liberia. And I know Dr. Golafale has been involved in other organizations Liberia that is here to helping Liberia. So what we do in the Liberian Studies Association is to write academic papers that have suggestion for how to reform things in Liberia. And we have invited the Liberian government several times and the universities in Liberia, and only individuals come to our conferences and they take heed to some of the suggestions we make there. And not to even the Liberian government, our organization has now gone down. It's the oldest event around, probably before I was born, or in the year I was born. I'm not telling you that year, but and the Ellen Johnson government even invited us to Liberia. Jackie, when was that? What year? Could you help me all year?
I think that was like maybe Samuel, Dr. Johnson, do you know?
It was 2009. We went to Liberia.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Johnson. In 2009, and even a few years ago at Ramapo, we had the honor of welcoming former President Dr. Amos Sawyer to some of our conferences. And I remember Dr. Sawyer was the guest speaker, and he kind of encouraged that what we were doing, our proposal for the Liberian government to take it and make it into workable things. So we are doing a lot for Liberia. We are doing a lot. And if you just went on our website, another shameless plug, LiberianStudies.org, you will see we have journals. We have our journals. Look into it and see Liberians producing work that they can use. But to just go back on what Dr. Golafale was saying, going back to do work on Liberia, it can be really challenging because to get papers from the ministry, I'm an education person, so Dr. Johnson, I'm not going to talk about economics or Dr. Golafale, I'm not going to talk about science. Those are way outside my purview. But to get paper from the Ministry of Education is really difficult. It's really difficult. You have to pass through hoops to get those papers, and we are doing things for Liberia. We want to work with Liberia, and some of us. I'm coming to Liberia sometimes next year to do some pro bono teacher training to train teachers that want to be trained to go to the classroom. I'm offering that. That's what I do here for a living. But it's so unfair to us. As panelists, for people to ask, what are we doing for Liberia? We might not be in Liberia, but we are contributing a lot for Liberia through our scholastic work, through our academic work. And, you know, we let me just say this. I don't want to blow my own horn, but all of us here we are putting Liberia on the map just for being Liberians that are professors at universities in the United States. That means a lot. So we are doing a lot for Liberia. Go and read about us, about the Liberian Studies Association in our journals. And we just to end here, I will suggest to the Liberian government, but going to take our scholastic work, our journals. We are not looking for a job, but to take some of the proposals that we make in our journals, and maybe they will help to uplift and reform the not only the educational system but system at large in Liberia.
Thank you, Dr. Wannah. Dr. Johnson, do you want to add something before we go on?
Yeah, let me see how much I can add to the beautiful comments from my colleagues here. The issue of research, the issue of the challenges faculty or professors faced in Liberia. You can look at it, the impact, the effect, the cause, or whatsoever you may call it, from many fold. Yes, the issue of funding, even from universities in Liberia, is an issue. Many universities do not have the capacity to fund the research by faculty. Yet, I think we should commend some faculty who are doing some good work at the University of Liberia. I don't know about other universities, so it's not biased. I mean, we were all, Dr. Golafale wasn't there, but we've always seen the beautiful work presented by people like Dr. Sani, who has come to LSA. And if you look up Liberia online in terms of conflict, restorative justice, and other things, you see the name of Sani trending, which tells you his impact in the field, his contribution. And so there are faculty at the university who are doing good work, and it takes a lot of courage. There are others who may not have the capacity, and so because they are spread across several universities, and there are reasons for that. One, it could highly be survivorship. If I'm teaching at University A and what I'm earning from there is inadequate to help me sustain my family, obviously I have to find a supplemental income, and most likely it will be at another university. But the danger there is that it affects your effectiveness and your productivity, stretching from one university. And so in that way, it impacts even the amount of energy you may have in you to engage in research. So in as much as yeah, we want to comment on this, I think the universities themselves need to think about it. And the issue of research is not new to the University of Liberia at all. I remember the business college before the war had its own journal, all right? And that was where I read one of the earliest articles on banking and finance in Liberia, the issue of the central bank. It was in, I think, the Banking and Finance or Banking and Economics Journal of the University of Liberia. I know when Dr. Conte took over as part of his strategic plan was to establish the University Research Institute. How far that has gone, I have no idea. So I'm not going to comment beyond that. But I think the universities themselves need to take interest and find a way to attract funding. Because if you talk to people in Monrovia now, a lot of the private agencies are looking for independent research consultants. And that is where the university could make its impact. I know in the case of Ghana, the University of Ghana, the Institute for Social Science and Economic Research, at the end of each year, they publish what they call the State of the Ghanaian Economy. That is a flagship publication from that one of their flagship publications. And those are publications that attract funding from private bodies like the World Bank, the United Nations. Because what you've done now, you've made their work easier. They do not have to pay external consultants who will require thousands of dollars. And it helps to sell the university because once you begin to produce those kind of work, they know, hey, we do not need to look any further. Let's walk to the department A at this university. They have people looking at this question. Maybe they can give us some idea. But it's all about the university trying to find means to attract funding. So we should talk about the frustration my brother Dr. Golafale goes through. Liberia is a virgin research terrain, I tell everybody. I do economic development research. You can't imagine how much I go through. Sometimes I even get confused. Okay, which question do I focus on now, given what I'm reading? Several reasons. People have published, but maybe the journals we publish in has been a lot of work has been done in the Liberian Studies Journal. If you go back, you see work by people like Tipota, you see work by people like Mills Jones, who was one-time central bank governor. All of those work are in the Liberian Studies Journal. But probably too, because the way the academy operate, we operate in our ivory tower, and so we seem to be disconnected from the larger society. So that may explain that. But there are volumes of work about Liberia. But notwithstanding, Liberia is still a research terrain, and nothing more should tell you than the interest of internationals in Liberia. I was in Liberia 2014 while Ebola was ravaging. I counted 10 international researchers who were there doing field work.
Yes.
They want to go there because they see the possibility of research, developing a research agenda on this country. So those are all things that, and we can only address that question if we all begin people begin to take interest in the whole issue. The issue of people coming into the universities with fake degrees. I know Cottington set an example in 2006 when they set up that graduate program, and they require faculty to submit, I think, transcripts of their cleaned academic qualifications. And that's one way. You and I, all of us here know it. When you apply for a faculty job, they're not going to ask you for a copy of your diploma because that is something you can get anywhere, any day. They ask you for a copy of your transcript. Not even your copy. They ask you to ask your university to send them a
Correct.
sealed copy. And if that transcript comes to the university not sealed, it comes to the university broken, they're not going to honor it. They're not going to take a transcript from you as a substitute. They ask you write your university because in America, privacy laws bar universities from releasing certain kind of information. But once you ask your university, you have that right. You ask your university, the university will send a transcript. And I think those are where the universities can start to work to curtail, to address this problem of people coming to the countries with fake degrees. I mean, I understand the emergency they find themselves in trying to get a qualified faculty, highly qualified faculty. So sometimes they may try to drop the ball, or sometimes they may forget. But these are simple steps. Nobody should come to the University of Liberia and say, I want to teach this particular course, or I want this particular job, and the person is not willing to ask his or her university to submit a transcript. That alone is a red flag. That should
Yeah,
be a red flag for the university.
I agree, Dr. Johnson. And another thing about the FERPA, the privacy laws, is that like when I asked for my daughter's transcript and they were saying no at the university, I'm like, I'm paying her tuition, and they said no. But the thing is that when like let's say if the University of Liberia would call my university and say, oh, did Jackie Sai attend here? The university will say yes or no. They don't have to say anything else, right? So if they say yes, she attended, did she complete? But the transcript is the true measure. A sealed transcript is the true measure, right? So I was thinking that all of the things that we're saying, and we and I always say that education doesn't exist in silos, right? People think that they go to school and then when they're done with school, they stop learning. But it's a whole environment of learning. It's the research, it's the discussion groups, it's the library, it's the video you watch that connects, it's making of the whole man. So people think, okay, I just want an education to get a job. No, the end is not the job, it's the building of the person that makes you an educated person. It's not just book knowledge. So and I was thinking because when you were talking about the budget, you know, and Dr. Wannah and Dr. Johnson know that I did write an article when the bows break, right, about the educational the education budget, and I wanted to just show this part. This is an old article I wrote for the National Legislature budget of 2014, right? The transportation reimbursement was 1,104,000, right? And then you had the special allowance for the national legislature. And then under the term special allowance, we have 3,204,000 allotted. And then foreign travel was 308,000, right? But then you look at this also Rural Teacher Training Institute, and the Bonk and it's also had under 200,000. Bonk Community College had 209,000. And then the MCSS, the whole to renovate all of the MCSS schools and computer systems was under 250,000. And that was the national budget of 2014. But if you look at the budget now, it has increased. It's just that there's more money, but not effective use of the money that's been put into place. So now we come again to credentials, to the research atmosphere. How can we, as as somebody said, diasporans, academics, what should be the first step in helping, or I don't like to use the word helping, in joining and collaborating with the professors at the, for me, at the University of Liberia. Cuttington is already number one, so I don't care for Cuttington, but the University of Liberia, to build this university that we can be proud of. Because if you look at the University of Liberia, it has such a rich heritage from Blyden, from the others. It was the place where you learn Latin and Greek and African languages, So how can we work with the students, with the teachers, to move this thing ahead, to forge it ahead in publication, in things? What would be the first step?
Well, that's a really good question, and some of us here are willing to help. One of the first steps should be networking with various universities here, networking with various faculty of universities here, and trying to see how Liberian professors or faculty members can be professionally developed. That's the first step. When you talk about networking, most of the time we look at it from a monetary point of view.
Yes,
And,
yes,
and it- yes, and it's not always monetary. It could be resources in manpower. For example, I could go to Liberia on and I could request a research grant or a development grant from my university and go to Liberia and spend some time at the University of Liberia. And that would cost the University of Liberia nothing, because my university would be willing to afford it. But the first step is for the University of Liberia to form some partnership, some networking partnership. It could be the University of Delaware. It could be at Cornell University or at Concordia University, or where I am now at Chicago State University. The provost, the president, could be willing to work with the University of Liberia. I remember in 1984, I don't know the university, not the University of Liberia, but Liberia sent 25 students here at my present university, Chicago State University. And I think I know about 20 of those 25 students because they were around here in Chicago. Those kind of partnership can be established, and for the Liberian professors to do their professional development or their training and go back to Liberia to teach. And also LSA will welcome all the time. We welcome professors from Liberia. I don't think Dr. Johnson, our abstract here, and he's right here, and I'm putting him on the spot. I don't think Dr. Johnson has ever denied an abstract from Liberia when it's so good. So, Dr. Johnson, you can go and follow and answer this question, and not answer the question, but since I call your name, because if we have good abstract, good papers coming like from professors like Dr. Sandy, we will welcome you. So the professional development, we some of us are willing to help the universities in Liberia to develop professionalism.
Saki?
okay. Sorry. Oh, sorry. We did. Do you want to add anything before we continue?
Yeah.
I think Dr. Golafale has something to say. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Dr.
Good. In regards to the issue of what I think Dr. Wannah addressed the issue of what we've done. But I just wanted to set a record straight. I think some people may not know a lot of things that we've been involved with, and the level of collaboration that we've had with the universities in Liberia. I've served on the board of the University Consortium for Liberia, that has been in existence since 2012, and I started being on the board from 2014. And was established as a way of engaging diverse academic efforts to support Liberian universities in teaching and research. And in 2012, I was fortunate to speak at the Liberia Business and Education Forum. And that's one of the things I stress the issue of linking academic industry. That conference focused on how we can bridge the gap between academia and industry. So we had a lot of companies there, Firestone or Delta Air at the time. Delta was flying to Liberia, and Accelometa and all that. I spoke at that conference. And as part of the University Consortium of Liberia, the University of Liberia, that got scholarship to Clark Atlanta University. Right now, I'm in a transition. You know, I got my degree last year, and I couldn't just go back to Liberia because I thought that I have to do some professional development. Teach, get myself well prepared to go back to Liberia. So I'm still in a transition period. In the next 1 year or so, I will uh, hopefully be back in Liberia to contribute. And as I've been here the last 8 years, 7, 8 years, I've been contributing to Liberia. Through the Universal Consortium for Liberia, we were able to establish the first social work program at the University of Liberia, working with Savannah State University as one of our partner universities. So we have about 18 to 19 partner universities in Liberia and the US that we work towards promoting all things Liberia and involving faculty and student exchange program. So we've had student exchange programs from the University of Liberia. Students have come here. Some of them have gone to graduate school. They've been excellent contributors back in Liberia, in the US. So there are a lot of things that we've been doing to try to make the system functional. And on the other hand, I wanted to talk about this. The last 1 year we've been faced with Ebola, right? And there's been a shift in the education system across the globe from traditional teaching to online. Some of the schools are new to that. They're still struggling up to now. Other institutions in Liberia have been transitioning, and we've been contributing to that effort because I have done a lot of online training, especially dealing with the learning management systems, with different learning management systems and all that. But here's the thing that got to me. Over the last 1 year, check Liberia to see how many scholarly work you've seen that gives an overview of the whole impact of COVID on education. How is the whole online learning thing gone? What's the review? Check in the US, you'll see thousands of reviews have come up on best practices in online education, improving pedagogical, skills, how to transition from the traditional way, faculty to student engagement through online learning. You see a lot of papers. Follow the commission high, I mean the higher education, how you call it? Help me with that. There's the there's this commission, higher education,
The
The
Chronicle of
higher,
Higher Education.
the higher learning commission.
Chronicle, thank you for that.
Chronicle of
The
Higher
Chronicle
Education.
of Higher Education. When
Yeah,
you follow, yeah, the Chronicle of Higher Education, when you follow those articles, the different release, the different publications of articles in different schools, you know what is going on right now. You as an institution will follow up. You will know how to get your faculty involved with improving student engagement through online learning. Unfortunately for Liberia, I haven't seen one written article on how, since the university transition, what has been the progress, what has been the challenges. Nothing. We don't have any update. And those things, if you can't do them, it becomes difficult to get funding for programs. UNESCO has funding. Since the last 1 year, UNESCO has been supporting education in Africa. UNESCO have funding. They have platforms for people to improve development, develop their for professional development in teaching online. There are a lot of support, but people are not investing their time and the little resources. Let me close up on this before we go to the next. If you have questions, the issue of resources. Last year, the government of Liberia decided to do a recast of the budget due to COVID. Look at what happened, what they did to the education budget. The education budget was approximately, I think, 79 million. It dropped to 70 or 78 million for education budget. Think about schools are struggling to do online learning, to transition, finding alternative way to get the students engaged, but their budgets are being cut. Fortunately, the Universal Library budget was not cut. It's still around 16, I think 16 million or something. But in a period of COVID, while other countries are investing in education, finding alternatives for learning, we're cutting our education budget. And guess what? Cut about 10% of the education budget last year during the recast. That doesn't encourage anyone to invest in education. Now, these people are not serious. Anyone with funding out, look at that. Guess where most of the money went? 22% of the budget for finance ministry went towards domestic liabilities. Now, I don't want to politicize this discussion, but if you look at the priorities, where people set priorities, it makes you kind of think, are these people serious? Do you want to work with these kind of people who do not prioritize education? In the period of COVID, emergency time, the budget for the most commodity education. So I just wanted to, say that if we want to contribute, people have to be serious enough. We cannot contribute to a system that's not serious. People who managing the system are not serious. It doesn't help our will to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Golafale. Dr. Johnson, any last comments?
Yeah, I don't think I can say it any better than Dr. Golafale. It's a matter of putting your money where your mouth is. If you look at the current National Development Plan of Liberia, it talks about the importance of research, mainstreaming research in education. That is one of the development goals of this particular development era we're in by this regime. But if you cannot invest in education, because that is where it starts from, if you cannot invest in education, instead moving resources away from education to other things that you may consider as priority, it raises a lot of questions about your sincerity. It even affects people's enthusiasm to go to work at the University of Liberia. And so, in as much as we may be critical, faculty themselves are human beings. They have needs. They have entitlements. Amartya Sen would say. So if they go there, commodify their service as educators, provide a service for which they expect to be paid, and they are not being paid up to the standard that they think they deserve to be paid, you affect the output that is being produced. So it's important that we put our mouth where our money is. But that is one step, because I know Erling did it with primary education when she said everybody goes to school free. And she just didn't say everybody should go to school free. She paid fees in schools. She increased government teachers' salaries, which is one of the reasons for which we have the crisis now in the Catholic Education Secretariat, because most of those who were teaching Catholic schools and government schools found that government teaching jobs now more attractive than Catholic schools. So they moved back to government schools. But here was the challenge. In as much as they were investing money, they didn't go to ensure the value for money, which was to ensure quality. And so what happens? No sooner had they begun to improve the financial returns to faculty in education at that level, had they begun to scream that the quality of education was bad, as was seen in students' performance in public tests at the university and WIEC. So it's not just only about, and I'm all for it. You need to pay faculty more. You need to pay your faculty more. If you want to have world class faculty, you must begin to think about paying them at that level. If you want to foster research, you must put up a research part. Where's faculty go and compete for grants? Competition always produce the best. Healthy competition, not unhealthy. Healthy competition always result in the best outcome, best and efficient outcome. The economists will tell you. So once faculty know that they have this part, we have a $10,000 grant up for research, and once we are able to submit a proposal, we are able to win that grant. Winning the grant is one thing, but ensuring that they produce the outcome of the research also is another thing. You can begin now to think about improving quality, and that is how you scare out even fake people from the universities.
Yeah.
I will rest
So
there, Jackie. I see you looking at your clock. So
no, 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 no. I mean, I could continue this for another hour and a half. You know that the constraints of time have fallen upon us. But I wanted to say also is that people always think that we have to start big. We have interns from Ghana going to South Africa, from South Africa going to Malawi, from Zambia going to Senegal. Liberians can also, the university students can do a study abroad in another African country as well. They can do those things. I mean, I send students every year. I send students from the United States to all of these, to most of these countries. But that doesn't mean that we cannot have our own internal student exchanges, professor exchanges, visiting fellows exchanges. You can go and learn at Stellenbosch. You can learn at the University of Ghana. Go and visit other universities within the continent of Africa, and start there. Author a paper with someone from there. I remember when I was a student at the university. I think my thesis was on spelling disorders of Liberian students, and I was going to the demonstration school, Newport Junior High, to interview the students. Use that. Don't find a research topic that's dear to your heart in the country. We have students at the university where I work studying why pregnant women eat butter, right? That's research. So I would say that political science is fine, but I would say that to strengthen the core, and I always say strengthen the core, the teachers and the students, you have to start with them. And so I would say that if you are not strong in one thing, find a partner that's strong, and then you guys work together. And I would echo what Dr. Wannah said about the Liberian Studies Association. We would love to come to Liberia in the summer, host a conference, learn, collaborate. I always, my students say, oh, I'm going to Africa to help the people. I'm like, you're an undergrad. You're not going to help anybody. You're going to collaborate with another student. So we have open arms to work with the University of Liberia. We welcome the collaboration. I would say that the National Commission on Higher Education needs to take a tougher stance on the fake degrees. People who get PhD in a month or a year, bring your transcript, show it to us, show us that you have a PhD, show us that you have a master's degree. This obsession that Liberians have with PhDs. So it is necessary to have a PhD because you're in higher education, but show us that you do have one. But I would say thank you to Dr. Johnson, Dr. Golafale, and Dr. Wannah. I would say that this has been very enlightening. I'm very hopeful to see the work that you all have been doing in Liberia, unannounced. Nothing big on Facebook, but you've been doing it. And I would say, keep up the good work. And I hope we can come back. In the summer you all are taking breaks. Some of you are going home. But I hope you can come back and tell the audience again what you're doing. If it's just mentoring a faculty member, a junior faculty member, if it's mentoring a research associate at the University of Liberia or Cuttington, let's take that ranking up. Let's bring LU #1, Cuttington #2, and then the other universities. So I thank you all for joining us for these 2 hours. We've learned a lot, and I thank the audience for being with us. You know, we weren't going to discuss politics. We're going to discuss academics in academia, because these are doctors. We're not here to talk about who has a fake degree in the government or not. We're here to talk about the process that they go through, and each one of them have climbed the rung of the ladder, and that's what people should do to have this named professor. So we thank you all very, very much, and we always close with this thing. So I would say, whether you are here in the diaspora or you are at the University of Liberia, or Cuttington, or AME, or UMU, we are all Liberians. We're striving for a better Liberia, and we will get there. So thank you very much.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.